I'm a logger in northern British Columbia, Canada. I'm an avid hunter and have spent many nights hunting alone. That being said, quite a few years ago, I was working on a broken down skidder in the dark after everyone on the logging block was gone, changing a blown hydraulic hose under the cab when I felt like I was being watched. The feeling continued to get worse and worse, so I was on edge and continued to work on replacing the blown hose. Every trip for tools to the service truck and back, I would scan for eyes in the nearby tree line about 25 metres away with my flashlight. Nothing. I continued to work on the pain in the ass hose that you literally have to dive your head and upper body under the cab to reach, and so your legs are stuck up in the air and feeling vulnerable. The feeling of being watched gets more intense. All the hairs on my neck are standing and I hear a two-tone whistle from far away, almost as if it was wind. It was far away, but it was flat and calm that day. Also, there was about 6 inches of fresh snow on the ground. I pushed myself out from under the skidder and looked around quietly with a flashlight for eyes in the tree line and down the road. Nothing. I had one side of the hose fitting to remove still, and it was the easier side and higher up, so I wasn't arse over tea kettle removing it. I put my head back under the cab and quickly began to spin the fitting loose. The feeling of being watched was so bad, every hair on my body was standing, and then I hear the same two-tone whistle, very loudly, in the tree line, directly behind me. I had the hose off at the exact same time, so I whipped myself out from under the cab and turned, ready to throw down with a wrench in my hand, yelling, "All right, where the fuck are ya?" No one there. No tracks, no eyes, no wind. Nothing. The flashlight I had was more of a small floodlight for working on repair stuff, so it didn't light up inside the trees. The next day, it had snowed another 6 inches or so, but I went and hiked the tree line with my 12 gauge and I was ready to go. No tracks that I could see, no perches on the trees where snow had been pushed off, if it was a bird. Nothing. I actually should have mentioned that this was over some 30 kilometres into the middle of nowhere, in the middle of winter, at about 7 p.m. So it was pitch black outside. So this is my second encounter, and this occurred 7 kilometres down the road from my previous. A few years later, I was out hunting with a friend when we lost legal light. So we hiked to the truck and hit the road in his parents' new Ford half-ton. You know, the ones with the sensors all over the vehicle. We had some music playing as we were just heading back towards town again, when the music started acting weird and cutting in and out with static. So, me being in the passenger seat, disconnected the Bluetooth and reconnected the phone. Music cleared up and we continued down the road. We got up to the kilometre board on the road that my previous encounter took place. That's the whistle block that we logged a couple years back. Half jokingly, because I couldn't make heads or tails of it. My friend replied, "Great, thanks for that," as I had told him the story before. We continued slowly driving down the road because it gets pretty rough in a couple spots and the road has a few sharp turns and an S-bend. We go about a kilometre further and the music starts screeching and doing what we can only describe as alien noises. I disconnect the Bluetooth again and my friend says, "Oh, Mum's got a cord in here." I plug in the phone and play music again. Another kilometre down the road and the phone goes apeshit. I mean, loud alien squealing and sounds similar to that shitty dial-up internet noise from the 90s. We had started into the S-bend when this was happening and we shut the music off completely, making the one half of the S-turn, and then we both look up from the music deck screen and the headlight illuminates a figure standing in the middle of the road. So we swerve and take the ditch a bit, still going probably 30 kilometres an hour, and get the truck back up on the road. We continued coasting down the road as we were both in awe after just seeing a flash of this thing. I finally say, after what seemed like 5 quiet minutes, "Man, did you just see?" My friend cuts me off and says, "A fucking skeleton in the middle of the road." I say, "Yeah, like a white rib cage. And a deer skull for a face," he finishes. I said, "Turn around. What the fuck was that?" Does someone need our help? Not thinking that we're in the middle of nowhere with no vehicles around, or any that we had passed from other hunters. It was early season and no one bow hunts here anyways. My friend says, "I'm not turning around, I feel sick, like I'm going to throw up." And he continued driving. We didn't see another vehicle until we hit pavement again. It was taller than the pickup by easily a couple of feet. I'm 6'1" and my forehead is at the top of the window for reference. It has black surrounding the white of the bones, with long arms half stretched out to its sides, as if it was saying, "Try and hit me." I watched this thing pass the passenger window and stared up at it as we wailed by it. And it was definitely three-dimensional. Tall, with long arms, and dark, dead looking. Like light was sucked into it without reflecting anything. It's hard to explain. When we hit service again, my friend received a text message from his mum saying, "What did you two idiots hit in my brand new truck?" I guess the new Fords send near accident reports to the owner when the sensors pick up something. The only thing I can find online that resembles what we both saw is a Wendigo, without the antlers. First of all, growing up, I've dealt with paranormal things like shadow people, things moving around without anyone touching them, and I swear this is a legit story. In May of 2020, my parents were going on their annual trip to Florida with my 3 brothers for the week. My mother asked me if I could go by their house and feed the family dogs or stay and house sit. Being the daughter that I am, I told my mother I would just stay at their house to save on gas. Throughout the week at night, I would bring the 2 dogs inside to feel safer, since my parents live on a somewhat back road. Keep in mind, my parents' house is surrounded by trees and there is a thick tree line separating their house from the 2 neighbours. Well, one night, while I was at the house alone, I'd called my best friend Bailey to come over and stay the night. We were going to do what 2 middle-aged 20-year-old females do when alone: play video games, watch movies, TikToks, and drink a little. While Bailey and I were in the kitchen around 3 or 4 a.m, making homemade funnel cakes like the fat asses we are, the dogs kept moving around, staring at the glass kitchen door that led off to the back porch. I asked Bailey to let them out there so they could chill and we would have enough legroom while we were cooking. While we were eating our funnel cakes, we came across a TikTok about making homemade temporary tattoos with a printed picture and perfume. Now, keep in mind, my parents have about 3.82 acres of land, so there is the family house, my father's 2-door garage workshop, and a large pole barn. Those 2 buildings are farther out near the tree line, so Bailey and I walked down to the workshop to go into my parents' work office. I punch in the code to the garage door, and we go inside, straight to the computer, and print out each other a picture of Kylo Ren to try and make into temp tattoos for each other. Before I go any further, a little side note. My parents have security cameras all around the property, and inside the office is a television above the desk showing all of the live footage from the cameras. While I was cutting out the tattoo for Bailey, she says, "What is that?" I stop cutting and look up at the cameras. At first, I didn't see anything except for a small figure in front of the pole barn. It looked like it was sniffing at the garage door. I shrugged it off and told it was probably one of the many stray dogs that roamed around the area. Bailey nudged my arm quickly after I said that and pointed to the screen again, wanting to prove to her it was just a stray dog. I stood up and looked closer to the screen. And when I did, I saw the figure, but it didn't look like one of the small dogs. The creature was hunched over on all 4s. Its arms were super thin and long, but pointing outwards from its chest. Kinda like how you would imagine that bitch from The Exorcism to be when she crawled on all 4s. It had no fur. Its skin looked tight on its body. And when I tell you, my inner white bitch went to open the door to look at it, Bailey stopped me right when I grabbed the lock on the door. Looking back at the screen at the creature, it looked like it scratched at the door of the pole barn. I had no idea what it was. "What the hell is that?" And the creature turned its head straight at the camera. I couldn't make out clear facial features, but it looked like it had a human head with 2 big glowing eyes. Bailey and I screamed and it bolted, and I mean bolted off screen, clearly freaked out. Bailey and I hugged each other like that would protect us. Then, something smashed against the garage door. Not once, but twice. Like, you know what it sounds like for someone to smack a garage door from the outside with their hand? Yeah, just like that. I called my grandmother and we told her we thought we saw something and to stay on the phone with us until we ran into the house. Once we got into the house, we brought the dogs in, locked every single door, and took shots of Crown until we fell asleep. Now, we talked about this a few times. I think it was a Wendigo, but Bailey thinks it was a skinwalker. But now people on Reddit are saying it sounds like a crawler. So here's my update. So 2 years ago, my ex-friend and I saw something, now believed to be a crawler. A few months back, I was leaving my parents' house around 11 p.m. on a Friday night. I approached my car that I'd parked in front of their garage this time. When I went to grab my keys from my little backpack, I had this strange urge to look up at the tree line that surrounded my parents' property. I kind of just figured it was my anxiety acting up because I'm not a fan of the dark. But I looked up to ease my mind, thinking all I was going to see was trees. I was very mistaken. When I looked up, I saw something at the tree line squatting down. Its skin looked grey, its body and limbs skinny, with no eyes. It seemed like it had dark eyes. It tilted its head to the side, as if it was just staring at me. And it was crouched down like the way Spider-Man would sit on the edge of a building or lamppost. My heart literally fell out of my ass. I just immediately unlocked my car while saying, "Nope, nope, nope, not again." I got inside my car and locked the doors, called my boyfriend, who didn't even answer my call. My brothers have told me they've also seen some things in the tree line before, and even at the end of the driveway near the mailbox.